Okay, I think we've given folks a few minutes to arrive, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Before we do so, there's a few too many people here for us to go around and have everyone introduce themselves, although that would be the entire session. But I would like to introduce the distinguished panelists that I have assembled here. We've got a great group of folks, and maybe I could ask if you would be willing to introduce yourselves very briefly, starting with Nicholas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nicholas Hurd. I look after the grant side of the Mohammed bin Zayed Species Conservation Fund, which is based in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rob Glastra from IUCN National Committee of the Netherlands. I'm one of their senior advisors, which means that we do all kinds of things. Well, one of them is I was involved as monitoring and evaluation officer for our small grants programs for a number of years, and I have knowledge management duties.
Thank you, Rob.
Good afternoon, I'm Robin Moore with the Amphibian Survival Alliance, and today I'm going to be talking about the work we're doing in AZE sites around the world to protect amphibians.
Thank you, Robin.
My name is Tony Whitten. I'm the Asia Pacific Director for Fauna and Flora International, but also the co-chair of the newest, I think, specialist group of IUCN on cave invertebrates.
Great. So we've got a very interesting and diverse panel, and I believe we have one more panelist who is just joining us. Before you go, could you just introduce yourself for us, since we're in the middle of the intros?
I'm sorry for coming late, I lost my way. But yeah, my name is Daniel Solomon Okena, and I'm from the Tree Kangaroo Conservation Program based in Papua New Guinea.
Okay, let's get started. So, my name is Mike Parr. I am the chairman of the Alliance of Zero Extinction, and I actually work at American Bird Conservancy. That's my day job based in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to start with just a few remarks regarding the concept of zero extinction for you to cogitate on while we have the various presenters, and we're going to conclude with a panel discussion. So please be thinking about your questions, but I think we'll hold all the questions for the discussion at the end, if that's okay, so we can kind of crunch through the panelists. So, could I ask if we could have the first slide up, please? Okay, so I'm just going to take you through a couple of questions that I think are interesting to conjure with in relation to extinction and the prevention of species extinction. And now I'll turn over to the panelists. So this is our Tapichalaka tree frog from Ecuador, which is a species that was discovered at an AZE site for birds. Can I just ask quickly before I go any further? Does everybody, could you put your hand up if you already know what AZE is? Wow. Great, okay. But there are a few people who don't, so for those who do, please forgive my trying to do a quick summary so that we can make sure everybody's on board with it. So, if we're going to halt the extinction crisis, I think there are four main approaches that we could take, and there may be some others, but these are the ones that I thought of at least. Approach number one would be to ignore it and hope it goes away. I don't think there's going to be anybody in this Congress who agrees with approach number one, but certainly that is one approach that one could take. Approach two, which I think is a good approach, is to tackle the extinction crisis locally, or to work on species which we can get easy traction with, and where there are conservation opportunities. And that's certainly a valid approach, and one that a lot of folks are taking. And if enough of us do that, we will have a success at scale. But the two approaches that I want to talk most about are those which are kind of global, philosophical approaches to avoiding species extinction, which is what is often referred to as the triage approach, and second is the AZE approach. Now you may have read about the concept of triage, and essentially triage basically takes species and drops them into three different groups. One group are the species that cannot be saved no matter what we do, which are the red ones. And then the green ones would be the species that will save themselves and don't need to be protected. Leaving in the middle the orange group, which are the species that will go extinct if we don't do anything, but if we do something, they'll definitely be saved. And so that would be kind of a summary of how that approach is considered. Now, part of the problem with triage, and why I believe the AZE approach is a better approach, is characterized by this set of data. We did a survey of several thousand conservation professionals 2 years ago to see what people thought about the issues of extinction, small populations, and rates of extinction. And it turned out that nearly 40% of the people we surveyed believe that more than 1,000 vertebrate species are going extinct annually, and nearly half believe that a vertebrate species needed at least 1,000 individuals to be genetically sustainable. And so if you put that back into the context of a triage approach in which conservation practitioners are making decisions about species conservation, here is a sample of species conservationists who believe that you need at least 1,000 individuals to survive. So my suggestion would be that if you apply that to the triage concept, we would be happily writing off many more species than we should be, because if you look at the actual reality, IUCN lists only 300 to 400 species that have gone extinct in recent centuries from vertebrate classes. And there are many, many species that have recovered from far smaller populations than this 1,000 individuals, which a large subsection of surveyed people believe is the minimum number required to be sustainable. For example, Black Robin of New Zealand was down to 2 females and is now climbed to 230 birds. The Laysan duck was down to 7 individuals, now 500 plus. Whooping crane, if you took the triage approach, you may have no whooping cranes on the planet now, was down to 15 individuals. Liz McCall was 78. Yellow-eared parrot was 144 is the low number that I have. Bald eagle was down to 800 individuals in the lower 48 states in the United States. So I think the idea of triage, I think, is extremely difficult to apply. I think it's almost impossible to know which that group of species would be where we could act and those species where we shouldn't act. And so the AZE approach is contrasted to that. What AZE believes is that we should try and conserve all species. And even some of the very rarest species can survive based on very low populations. So an AZE species or site is basically anything that's EN or CR on the red list at just a single site on the planet. And the AZE team, which comprises about 90 groups around the world, got together and with the help of, in fact, WWF played a large role in helping us get the mapping going in the first place through Eric Dinnerstein, who is sitting at the front here. We mapped where these places were on planet Earth. So these are the sites where one could potentially predict that species extinctions might happen. And by protecting them, we believe that we can create a front line of defense against species extinctions, which covers all species and not just a subset which we believe may or may not be savable. We have around 600 sites for about 900 of the world's most threatened vertebrates. We also include reef-building corals. We also include pine trees, and we're planning on expanding that for the next data update. AZE sites fit into KBAs, which you've heard a lot about. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we should have. Could you forward the slide, please? Okay, sorry. didn't catch up with you on these species. There we go. So there's the map. So this is a diagram that shows where AZE sites fit into key biodiversity areas. There are small subsets of the top of the pyramid, or the tip of the iceberg, and they overlap with IBAs as well in a similar way.